I'm heading off on the next part of my journey, 10 miles along the line to Ribblehead. I'm so pleased to see the route thriving. It's thronged with tourists who help to generate the income that pays for the line. So, the Central Carlisle Railway, have you worked on it long?
About 18 months.
How do you enjoy it?
It's very good, it's lovely, it's a lovely place to be.
Do you still take in the scenery, or is it all nothing to you now?
Oh no, it's always breathtaking.
Pleased the line was saved?
Yes. Well, aren't we all? I mean, very
It's
nice.
a really important bit of railway heritage, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, such a lot of people rely on it as well, you know, so it would be in a terrible shame. So, yeah, there's a lot of nice things to see. It's always a pleasure, it is, and everybody just loves it.
Hello.
I've always been a big fan of yours when you were a minister, when we were trying to save this line.
Oh, thank you.
My father worked on this line.
It's an amazing engineering achievement, this line, isn't it?
Absolutely so, yes.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very pleased it got saved. Thank you very much for what you said.
Well, that's okay.
This railway is valued, both for what it is today and for the ambition of those Victorian engineers. When you look out at this terrain, you have to wonder how they could ever have dreamt of building a railway line through it. And particularly because, apart from steam engines, they had very little machinery, so the boring of the tunnels, the building of the viaduct, had to be done by vast numbers of navvies, working in very difficult conditions with a very heavy death toll. It must have seemed madness to build a railway straight across the weather-beaten Yorkshire Dales. But the Midland Railway Company wanted a high-speed link to Scotland to compete with its rivals, and desperate needs generate heroic solutions. 6,000 men built 14 tunnels and no fewer than 20 viaducts, including one of the longest in Britain, at Ribblehead. An unusual station, Ribblehead, because the two platforms are separated by quite a distance. But just beyond that platform is just the top of the Ribblehead Viaduct. You get no impression from here of how very tall it is. You can just see the tops of the arches on this very glowering day. It took 4 years and a third of the workforce to build the viaduct. It's one of the Victorians' greatest achievements. As I come round this last brow, I get my first full view of the Ribblehead Viaduct for 20 years. 24 magnificent arches spanning the valley. And even from here, it's difficult to get the sense of scale, because the highest of these arches I know is 100 feet tall. And even though I'm almost, it seems, within touching distance of it, it's difficult to appreciate the vastness of this and to think that just hundreds of men had to pile these immense blocks on top of each other to create that incredible, beautiful structure. By the 1980s, this Victorian feat of engineering was in danger of falling down. The thing completely dwarfs him. He looks like a speck. Hi, Tony.
Hello.
Long time no see.
20 years nearly.
Tony Feschini was the man sent to inspect it. Now, when I met you, you were a British Rail engineer.
Yes.
And we were being told that this viaduct needed £7 or £9 million spending on it in those days. But you
Yes.
had a different view, didn't you?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be allowed to do a trial repair here, which allowed me to understand fully the important parts of the structure.
And what did you find?
I found that it would cost between 2 3/4 and 3 1/4 million. And we achieved it in the end.
With the cost of repair revised down to a third of previous estimates, the case for closure weakened and rebuilding began. So as you began to research it, were you impressed by what the Victorians had done?
Absolutely. The first thing that catches you here is the weather. And we're pretty well clad today, even though we're getting wet. And I could imagine people living on this moor throughout the year in winter. It'll be pretty daunting. It's bad enough living here in summer.
What kind of difficulty would it have been building this?
Of tremendous difficulty. If you can imagine the site in the 1870s, the whole of the area would be wild countryside. To come here and set up a site to build a structure of this size and magnitude in an area like this would have been a formidable task in any age.
Many of the navvies who built the viaduct came here with their families. Shanty towns appeared all along the route to house thousands of people, working through the gales and snow to build the line by hand for years on end. It was back-breaking work. They're pretty big blocks of stone, aren't they?
Extremely big blocks, sort of 2 cubic metres, massive. It's built in groups of 6 arches for safety. Every 6th pier is a wider pier. That gives stability to the structure. If you lost 1 arch, you could lose 6, but no more. It would be better than 24. Even with modern machinery, Tony still faced a huge challenge to restore the viaduct. So tell me this, if you've got to take a block of stone out and replace it, how on earth do you do that? Well, we used like a mining technique. What you have to do is a man will start to nibble away the stone bit by bit, but you work in and prop it, prop the ones above from the one below, and carefully work your way in so you don't disturb the ones above you. One thing I didn't want to be was the man who demolished Ribblehead Viaduct while I was working here.
You still inspired by it?
I am. It's a superstructure, really.
It is truly magnificent. At the Emsey and Bolton Steam Railway, they have trains dating back to the Victorian era. Oh, Stephen.
Hello, Michael. Good to meet you.
Lovely station. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. We're trying to recreate the past here. And I gather you come to see some of my carriages.
Oh, yes, please. Stephen Middleton's passion is restoring these old railway carriages. Which one will we be travelling in?
We'll be travelling this Great North of Scotland coach. It's a first third, and I think it's everyone's favourite.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Do have a look in.
It had wood like this originally, did it?
Quite likely, yes. We've copied some of the gold detailing there, and the lamps are rather splendid, although they came from the British Home Stores.
But they would have been similar in design, wouldn't they?
Very similar, yes. Oh, a few people can recall how to operate these.
Oh, no, I recalled. You position that there,
That's
and
right.
then it stops it.
Yep. You pull the strap and up it goes.
And then, oh, you pull the strap and up
Yep.
it goes. Oh, I wasn't remembering perfectly then.
That's it, and you can control your ventilation. The only problem was these used to get stolen, these straps. I gather the old-fashioned cutthroat razors could be sharpened on them.
Well, thank you very much. Lovely. Fantastic sound, isn't it, when you set onto the steam
It
train?
is. It's not quite the same as an electric train, is it?
No, it's not. This carriage is typical of the 1890s and has a luxuriously upholstered interior for first-class passengers. But it wasn't always like this. Now, take me back to the 1850s when Bradshaw's guide was written, the one I'm following.
I think the 1850s, the passengers then may have been grateful to have a shelter over their heads.
Yes.
Because a lot of them would have experienced the 1840s riding in open wagons.
In open wagon, yeah.
Because clearly the railways thought, we get more money transporting coal, we get more money transporting cattle, so they put as many third-class passengers into an open wagon with benches in as possible. But Parliament stepped in and decreed that they really ought to have better travelling conditions.
You know, this, in the age before health and safety, it doesn't say, do not lean out of the window. So may I have a lean out of the window, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. It's a great feeling, the smoke pouring down the line. Magic. Bradshaw was right that the station was busy, and he also comments on the architecture. That very noble pile of buildings in the Italian style, the Chester Station, is the longest of all the railway termini in England. Magnificent though the station is, Bradshaw writes about his chief reason for visiting. Chester is a genuine Roman city, built foursquare within walls which remain to this day. The walls are now a scheduled ancient monument. They've been repaired and restored over the years, but still follow the original Roman layout. Using my guide, I'm going to explore this 2,000-year-old settlement. Do you know much about the history of Chester?
Only the Romans, that's all, but I don't know a lot about it.
What did the Romans ever do for Chester?
Oh, don't ask me.
Chester, you're proud of your city?
Very much so.
Tell me a bit about the Roman history. Tell me what one should think about in Roman history.
There's the old port over by the racecourse, and every time anybody excavates for a building, there's another piece of Roman history comes to light. So it's just down there.
Chester was once the site of the biggest Roman fort in Britain. Tour guide Paul Hyde has asked me to meet him at the city's famous racecourse to discover more. Paul, Michael.
Good morning, Michael. Welcome to Chester.
Lovely to see you. What a fantastic vista from here. Obviously over the racecourse.
It's fantastic, isn't it? The racecourse was where the Roman port was, and of course Chester really began as a Roman fortress. It was one of the 3 legionary fortresses in Britain, but also it was larger than the other 2. And there is thought that one of the reasons for that, it may have been seen as a potential base for the invasion of Ireland, what is now Ireland. That never happened.
Like the Romans, the Victorians recognised Chester as the gateway to Ireland and the West. By the 1850s, 4 railway companies ran lines through Chester, and the city was transformed. Reading Bradshaw, you get the impression that Chester becomes a really important railway hub. I suppose the railways must have contributed to a substantial revival in Chester's fortunes.
Certainly in the mid-19th century, the railways helped make Chester fairly prosperous. And also in 1861, the Great Western and the London and North Western Railway were the 2 biggest employers in the city. So the railway did make Chester quite an important place.
Chester became a major shopping destination, attracting visitors with its historic architecture. Bradshaw writes, "On both sides are lines of shops and covered ways called the rows, to which you ascend by a few steps." By the 1860s, American tourists were already arriving by boat into Liverpool. They boarded the train to visit Chester's quaint rows, constructed along the original Roman street plan. Oh, this is stunning, Paul. We've come off what was the Roman street, yes?
Yes, Watergate Street, Via Principalis in Roman times, so we're following the line of the Roman street. But we're now on the rows, Chester's famous rows, which have been here since the 13th century. I mean, basically what we've got here is a medieval shopping mall, which is unique to Chester. So you would not be in the rain if you're doing your shopping, and of course away from the filth of the street as well. Greatly changed over the ages. This is actually 13th century stone arch, but the outer building here, Booth Mansion, is actually 1700.
So actually the street as we see it now is a remarkable collection of different architectural styles.
Yes, certainly.
It's kind of very cosy, isn't it? Out of the mud, out of the rain. Chester must have been an early shopping destination.
Absolutely.
As Victorian Chester's reputation grew, the town centre was given an extensive makeover. Shops were rebuilt in the black and white Tudor style, adding to the picturesque appeal of the town to tourists.
This is Durham. Cheers.
Thank you. My first stop is the historically important city of Durham, whose overwhelming cathedral is rightly praised in my Bradshaw's Guide. Bradshaw's says of Durham, from all the neighbouring points of view, its appearance is unique and striking, and the public edifices exhibit a great degree of magnificence. The centre of the eminence is occupied by the cathedral and castle. Victorian writers could be pretty pompous, but the point is well made. The view is stunning. In the Victorian era, the cathedral more than dominated the skyline. It was one of the most powerful landowners in the county. When the railway arrived, the chapter, its governing body, demanded huge sums of money to allow it to cross ecclesiastical land. And even today, the cathedral is central to Durham's way of life. Are you a native of Durham?
I am, and a student, so...
Oh, that's unusual.
Yeah.
So you're studying in your own city?
I am.
Do you go to the cathedral very often?
It's such an impressive building, and I'm graduating there in January, which is going to be great for myself personally.
Is that lovely?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just such a good setting, and I think as well, I mean, so historic.
The railway reached Durham in the 1840s, and in the succeeding decades, the railway companies promoted the cathedral as an attraction worth the journey. They appealed to a new type of Victorian tourist, the wealthy middle classes seeking to educate themselves through travel. And a Bradshaw's Guide made a perfect tutor. It records, "This venerable building is a cross, 420 feet long, built between 1093 and 1220, chiefly Norman, with many examples of the early pointed style." I love Durham Cathedral. As you march up this enormous nave, you're aware of this impressive, heavy, ancient architecture. The great big columns and the rounded arches. And it's all one, it's all of a period. And yet I'm marching towards what I assume is a later, beautiful rose window. And the whole place is majestic and tranquil and vast. In the early 19th century, the bishops of Durham were powerful and wealthy men. They were so well remunerated that a celebrated kerfuffle over the pension paid to one bishop is highlighted in my Bradshaw's Guide. Perhaps unfairly, I put the present-day Dean, Michael Sadgrove, on the spot. Now, there's a curious reference in my Bradshaw. It says, in 1856, an Act of Parliament was obtained to enable the bishops of London and Durham to retire from their sees with handsome pensions. Now, what was he referring to?
That was the retirement of Bishop Edward Maltby. It was a cause célèbre because that was unheard of. You didn't retire, you simply went on till you died. He was given permission to retire because the Bishop of London was also given similar permission at the same time. And the pensions on which they retired were huge. I think £4,500 per annum, which equates to about £350,000 a year in today's money.
With the Victorian press in full cry about the bishop's pension, the Prime Minister faced angry questions. I mean, I looked up the parliamentary debate, actually, and it's interesting, as one MP gets up and he says, you know, why should these chaps have £4,500 when the average churchman has only £100? So it's all about disparity of income. It's got echoes of the present day, hasn't it?
It is.
Before I resume my journey south, there's just time to hear the Cathedral School Choir in rehearsal, led by choirmaster James Lancelot. You must be James.
Hey, very good to meet you.
That was lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much, everybody. How long has there been a choir in this cathedral?
Since it was built, I think, probably.
Yes. 9 centuries or
and
so.
with boys, since 1416 at least. Yes.
And, I mean, the young voices really fill the entire space, don't
Well, they do. They do. I mean, they know a thing or two about singing, and the people who built it knew a thing or two about acoustics. This is not the whole choir. We've got 16 boys, we've got 10 men, and we've now got 20 girls as well since last November.
Now, I believe I'm talking not only to a choir master, but also a bit of an aficionado of trains. Is that true?
Well, that is true, yes. Yes. Both the interest in music and trains go back to early childhood.
When you were this age, what did you want to be?
Oh, I think he wanted to be an angel driver, all boys did at that age. I think it's very difficult to explain, well, to really anyone under about the age of 55, just what the romance of railway travel was in those days, the sheer variety, the complexity, and at its heart, of course, the steam engine, which was the nearest thing to a living creature that any machine has ever been.
Well, I'm safely over 55, so you're OK with me. These days, Newcastle's classical buildings are offset by some striking modern architecture, including the award-winning Millennium Bridge. George Bradshaw, as a tremendous admirer of technology, would love the Millennium Bridge, which tips up like a winking eye to allow shipping to pass underneath it. It takes just 4.5 minutes to open and is the world's first and only tilting bridge. The quays of the Tyne are now home to a thriving arts and culture scene. But in Bradshaw's time, one industry above all others helped the city to grow. Bradshaw's says, Newcastle's situation on the banks of a navigable river and in the greatest coal district in the world are the chief causes which have tended to raise it to wealth and importance. In the 1860s, Tyneside dominated Britain's coal mining industry, supplying almost a third of London's fuel. The wealth generated by the collieries financed pioneering engineers working on what became the century's most important technology, the railways. In 1824, Robert Stephenson and his father George set up their locomotive works in central Newcastle. I'm meeting Dr. Michael Bailey to see what's left of their empire.
Good to meet you.
Wonderful to see you. I can't believe this place. Is this really the shrine of British railway engineering?
Well, I suppose it is really. This is the first purpose-built locomotive factory in the world. The railways were developed in this country, and we then exported our locomotives to Europe, to North America, and the whole railway revolution developed from that moment on.
It must have become a very big works indeed. Give me an idea of its size.
When it was completely developed later on in the 19th century, it occupied something like 6 acres, 2.5 hectares, if you like, in modern speak. And there were about 1,200 employees, so that was a very large site.
I mean, look at this building. There's kind of very little trace of what it must have been like, and yet it's very moving, actually. I mean, for anyone who's interested in railways, this really is the cradle of it all, the place where it all begins.
Yes, it is. And I think the people of Newcastle are extremely proud of the fact that they have here right on their doorstep the very beginnings of the railway era.
At this site, the Stephensons designed some of the first successful locomotives. They developed all the elements of a modern railway, including setting the distance between the parallel rails, which became the world standard gauge. Why does this birth of railway technology happen in Newcastle, of all places?
It comes back to the coal, of course. The coal industry was so dominant in the 18th and then early 19th century that the competition between the different coal owners demanded better and better ways of moving the coal from the colliery sites to the shipping points for shipment to the southern England or export to Europe. And therefore, to enable you, to allow you to be competitive, you needed better railway technology to move the coal.
Father and son, George and Robert Stephenson, both started out as engineers in the coal industry, and by Bradshaw's day, they'd become household names. One of the striking things about George Stephenson is that he's a man of very humble origins, little education. Was he a man with rough edges?
Yes, he did have rough edges. He always had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, or some would say a forest on his shoulder, because he didn't have education, but he was self-taught. He taught himself to read and write, and that's obviously very commendable.
But Robert did have an education.
George Stephenson ensured his son Robert would have all the education that he did not have. When he left school, he could really have taken a position in any profession, but he chose to perpetuate his interest in engineering. By 1850, he had been responsible for something like 1/3 of all the railways built in this country.
These two men hopping between mechanical engineering and civil engineering, building bridges, planning railway lines. I mean, this is the stuff of genius, isn't it?
Well, I think it is, isn't it? I mean, to be the engineers right at the beginning of the railway revolution, yes, it is. It's the stuff of genius.
In 1859, when Robert Stephenson died, the railway works were one of the largest employers on Tyneside. But they owed their development to the region's mineral wealth, its so-called black gold. Bradshaw's notes that coal, the true riches of Newcastle, was first worked here in the year 1260, but the produce was scanty till steam power was used in 1714. He notes the vastness of the coal fields and their enormous depth. And then he says all geologists agree that it will take some hundreds, if not thousands of years to exhaust the coal. Well, I'm going to see now how that prediction stacks up today. Before the railways, the Thames provided the fastest means of travel. When the Greenwich Line opened in 1836, travellers were reluctant to exchange the boats for trains. But within a short time, 1,500 passengers a day were using the service. Greenwich, with its stunning park, was transformed from a leafy village outside London to one of the capital's most popular suburbs, and Bradshaw could see why. Talking of Greenwich Park, Bradshaw says, "We cannot but hope that the park and heath may be preserved for ages to come as an oasis in the desert, when the mighty city has spread its suburbs far beyond it into the hills and dales of the surrounding country." And Bradshaw's wish has come true. The park and the heath have been preserved. But even George Bradshaw, with his great imagination about the future, cannot have anticipated the mighty bulk of the structures of Canary Wharf, which are magnificent. In Bradshaw's time, the splendid historical buildings at Greenwich attracted tourists from across the world. Now the Naval Hospital and the Queen's House form part of a World Heritage Site, which includes the park's crowning marvel, the Royal Observatory. My Bradshaw's guide says the Royal Observatory occupies the most elevated spot in Greenwich Park. For the guidance of shipping, the round globe at its summit drops precisely at 1 p.m. to give the exact Greenwich time. Dear, I'm going to need a better watch. The Greenwich Observatory's time ball has been helping accurately to set watches and clocks since 1833. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Michael.
Jonathan Betts is the Senior Curator of Horology. The famous ball here, what is that for? What does it do?
It was necessary before you left your home port to set to local time, and that's what the time ball was for. It was to enable the ships in the docklands below to set their chronometers correctly.
So they'd be down on the ships with their telescopes looking up.
Exactly.
And measuring the exact moment at which the ball fell.
And at 1 o'clock every day they were all down there, and of course the public regarded it very much as a time service for them.
With the dawn of the railway age, Greenwich assumed additional importance. Until then, time was set locally, so Bristol was 14 minutes behind London time and Plymouth 20 minutes. That caused havoc for train timetables. Is it really the case that the railways were the main force driving towards having standardised time in this country?
Principally it was, yes. The railways and the electric telegraph went kind of hand in hand, and it was only with the introduction of the railways and the electric telegraph that it was realised we needed one time for the nation. If you wanted to catch a train and you had your watch set to your local time and they had the train timetables on London time, you really needed to know that, otherwise you'd miss your train. Then eventually Greenwich gets into the business of telegraphing the time to towns and cities all over Britain. Yes, electric clocks had been created in the 1840s, and we created here something called an electric master and slave system, in which the master clock sent out electrical time signals using the electric telegraph along the railway lines to virtually anywhere in the country to provide Greenwich time.
Towns and villages outside London instantly received the Greenwich time, which would be displayed in public places using signal devices. Jonathan has several Victorian examples. Your workshop is a busy-looking place.
Yep, there's plenty going on here. I've actually got 2 time signals out for you to see. From the 1870s, this type of time signal was being used by subscribers all over the country to provide a Greenwich time service for their customers. In front of jewellers' shops like Hancock's here, for example, in Bond Street, you'd find a big group of people all standing there with their pocket watches waiting to set the time. And as the moment approached, you know, there'd be mounting excitement.
And this one is more like your ball here at Greenwich.
Very much so. This is a little miniature version of the time ball. There were many of these made. First of all, we have to this would happen about 5 minutes before 1 o'clock. The person receiving the time signal would arrange for the ball to be raised to the top of the mast in time, of course, for the Greenwich time signal to go through, and then with everybody standing outside waiting with their watches, at the moment of the signal, the ball would drop, and there you have it. Isn't that fun?
It is. That's absolutely wonderful. Do you know, I've been thinking about railway time since I started making these journeys, but it's really brought it home to me today. That really is fascinating.
That's
this
great
is
stuff.
how it worked.
Precision timekeeping.
The railways created the need for standardised time in Britain and in other countries too. That gave rise to time zones. Since 1884, time around the globe has been set by reference to Greenwich. I'm getting off at Rotherhithe, where the new line follows the original Victorian route and takes advantage of one of the 19th century's most daring achievements. So it's London's newest railway service, but it passes through a tunnel familiar to Bradshaw. The tunnel from Wapping to Rotherhithe was commenced in 1825 and opened in 1843 by the projector and engineer Sir I.K. Brunel. Then he gives all its dimensions and he says it's a double archway brilliantly lighted with gas and open each day and night at a toll of 1 penny for each passenger. This tunnel wasn't built for a railway, it was built for pedestrians, and I'm going to take a walk through it. From 1 a.m, the line is closed, and I'm assured it will be safe to walk along it. I'm meeting Robert Hulse from the Brunel Museum, a keen admirer of this tunnel.
Hello.
Here we are in the middle of the night. We hope all the trains have stopped and we can go into the tunnel. It's quite a special tunnel, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the first tunnel under a river anywhere in the world, and it's the first project that Isambard Kingdom Brunel worked on.
So, I mean, in a way, it's also the origins of underground railways.
Yes, this is an international landmark site because it's the birthplace of the tube, not just for London, but for everywhere.
This 365-metre tunnel was originally built as a fast way to transport cargo across the river. It was engineered by Mark Brunel and the work was supervised by his son, Isambard Kingdom Brunel. For the first time, they would bore beneath water at enormous risk and in appalling conditions. Was machinery used to build this in any way?
No, it's dug by hand. It's dug by men working in cages with short-handled spades, showered with Thames water. In 1825, when the Thames was the biggest open sewer in the world, it just really doesn't bear thinking about what was showering down on these poor unfortunates as they toiled under the river.
It took thousands of men working by oil lamp to construct the tunnel. Officially, 6 people were killed building it, but that doesn't include others who died from cholera and TB. It was a lethal enterprise.
It began just here. Now imagine this as a cage, 36 tiny cages, a row of 12 along the top.
Each one of those has a man in it?
Each one of those has a man in it.
And the method of building obviously had to be original. It had never been done before.
That's right. This is Mark Brunel's patented method, and modern tunnelling machines are based on this principle.
Men dug out the earth 4 inches at a time. Then the exposed flanks were quickly lined with bricks. But after 18 years, there was no money to build cargo ramps, so the tunnel was opened to pedestrians instead, at the cost of 1 penny.
In the first 15 weeks, there were 1 million visitors, but that's only 1 million pennies. And the tunnel was conceived as a cargo tunnel that would have got tolls from the shipping agencies. So they have pennies. They're a huge success as a visitor attraction, but they have no revenue, so to speak. So they built the world's first underwater shopping arcade to try and make some money. And each of these little archways was a shop. And there's just room for you and a barrow and a table of souvenirs. They sold items like this. They sold Thames Tunnel gin flasks, Thames Tunnel pin cushions, Thames Tunnel snuff boxes, Thames Tunnel coffee cups. If they'd had baseball caps, they'd have sold those. People came here in the millions, but not everyone had the courage to walk under the river. And some people walked under the river very, very briskly and broke into a run about this point, which is halfway, where most people's resolve fails them.
I have some sympathy with that.
Sadly, what opened as a shining avenue of light under the River Thames to Wapping became, by degrees, a little less shiny and a little less respectable.
Oh.
Yes.
It became a bit seedy, did
it? It did. It became a haunt of thieves, cut purses, and what the books demurely describe as women know better than they should be. In fact, there were all kinds of transactions conducted under the River Thames in these dark spaces.
And so at that point, it was ready to become a railway tunnel?
Yes. In 1865, they sold the tunnel to the railway.
The tunnel became part of the growing rail system and is now the centrepiece of London's newest train service. I still don't like touching that electric rail, even if it is off. Darren, this is my stop, Chatham. I've really enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Safe journey. In the 19th century, Chatham had one of the greatest shipyards in the country, which, not surprisingly, features strongly in my guidebook. The dockyard, to be seen by application at the gate, was commenced by Queen Elizabeth following the wise policy of her father and is about 1 mile long. And I'm going to see what I think is a really vital part of British naval history. My Bradshaws goes on to describe the vast array of facilities at the dockyard. It contains 6 building slips, wet and dry docks, rope house, 1,140 foot long, ore and block machinery by Brunel. The list goes on. At the time of writing, England was still on the defensive against France in the wake of the Napoleonic Wars. With fear of European invasion ever in the air and the arrival of new technology, the dockyard was rapidly expanded from 80 acres to over 600. Well, I've come down now to the dockyard and I'm just very impressed by the scale of it. It is huge and it reeks of history, some beautiful historic buildings. Such an extensive dockyard in Bradshaw's day required its own network of tracks. Hello, Richard. Richard Holdsworth is the Museum and Heritage Director at Chatham. I mean, I assume it was because the place was so big that it needed a railway.
It had a huge transport system built here. The railway arrived in the dockyard in 1879, and then for the next 15, 20 years, the dockyard was furiously building standard gauge railway lines across its entire length, and that process went on to the 20th century.
So you could bring trains off the national system right
into the yard. So they were carrying the sorts of materials that were needed to build ships, specialist tools, equipment, guns, things like that.
The railways were crucial to keeping Britain at the forefront of naval engineering. In the late 1800s, trains hauled in the materials required for shipbuilding, and the technology of steam was used to modernise the vessels. The Victorians had created a vast global empire, and Chatham supplied the latest warships to defend it. HMS Gallant strikes me as a pretty unusual ship because it's both sail and steam, isn't it?
That's right. She's transitional period. Really at the heyday of the dockyard of the Navy in Victorian times, when Britain's Navy is projecting power across the world. These are the sorts of ships that were designed to patrol the widest flung parts of empire. From about 1892 to 1905, something like 250,000 tons of warship entered the Medway from these slips behind me. And they were the cream of the Royal Navy, the envy of the world. And Chatham was at the core of ship construction and ship repair.
The vast new docks and the new technologies became a tourist attraction in themselves. Visitors came to marvel as up to 2,500 craftsmen readied the ships for sea and produced essential naval equipment like ropes. It strikes me rather ironic that one of the things that survived here is the ropery, because I imagine as you move from sail to steam, you need many fewer ropes.
Well, that's true, and from about 1866 onwards, the Navy cut down its rope it used. But in the heyday, it had 4 roperies all of its own and brought a huge amount in commercially.
When built, the ropery was the longest brick building in Europe. It's still used for the same purpose as in Bradshaw's time. Nothing prepares you for that, does it? It's just endless.
It's one of the 7th wonders of the world, I think.
This is the oldest rope manufacturer in Britain. The building is so long because the strands of rope had to be laid out to their full length before being twisted. The length of the room is just so that you can make these enormous stretches of rope.
The length of the room is designed so that the Navy could make rope in 120 fathoms, and that works out today as 220 metres, and that, funny enough, is the international length of a standard coil of rope.
Today, the ropery makes natural fibre ropes for theatres and zoos, as well as boats, pleasure cruisers, and the Ministry of Defence. And this scene I could have seen, at any time in the last, a couple of hundred years?
It's a process that's going on today in the same way it has done for a couple of hundred years, and it's a commercial venture.
Following my Bradshaws around Britain, it's useful to remember that the Victorians enjoyed one of the longest periods of peace in British history. Yet the danger posed by France at the beginning of the 19th century made them guard fiercely both homeland and empire.